Camille Stewart, welcome. You join us today with a cross-cutting perspective on technology, national security, and foreign policy. You currently serve as Global Head of Product Security for Google. You've served previously at DHS, as well as at several major corporations. From those varied experiences, what do you see as the main drivers of our cybersecurity challenge, initially on a high level?
As I look across the landscape, I think there are a number of things that the community has been talking about: limited investment in resources, whether that's money or people, stalled collaboration between public and private partnerships. There are too many silos, nation states empowering cyber criminals, lack of cyber norms. But the one that I think we need to talk more about is the fact that we've lost sight of the individual. Cybersecurity is centered around people, and we need to be communicating to individuals about their role and the opportunities for them to play a part in this.
Great overview of what you see as the key drivers. Can we discuss each a bit more, starting perhaps with your key focus on individuals?
Sure. So at the individual level, so many attacks are started by the actions or inactions of one person in an organization. A focus on cyber training is really important, but also just contextualizing how technology and therefore cybersecurity plays a part in everyone's individual lives and lived experiences, and how these large scale attacks and cyber incidents affect their daily lives, right? I think we've had some really interesting cyber incidents come up that make the connection for people, and we should take this moment to translate how they as individuals connect to big ransomware attacks like JBS Meats, and how attacks like Colonial Pipeline affect their daily lives and their access to gas. So there's a real opportunity there to make some connections that could help people moderate their behavior on top of what their organizations and institutions do. Then we go into business prioritization and investment and cybersecurity, and really going above the compliance checkbox to invest in a holistic understanding of their environment and their vendors and the third-party risk. We need more international alignment and collaboration. And then breaking down those silos, as I mentioned before, we talk a lot about public-private partnerships and collaboration, but also just the base level human interactions need to be facilitated so that folks across the cyber community are talking to each other. And then for a long-term investment, we need to invest in civics and STEM education for everyone. That will feed that individual understanding, as well as get folks more engaged in dictating how we advance as a society and through technology, and then even invest in cybersecurity.
Your call out to invest in civics and STEM education in the context of cybersecurity is an intriguing one. Can you lay out how you see them intertwined?
Definitely. Technology underpins everything. So the STEM education piece is a great baseline to understand how technology moves and operates in your life, and how you're making trade-offs around convenience versus security or convenience versus privacy. But contextualizing that in civics so that you understand that your choices about what our thresholds should be around security requirements, around privacy, will inform how you engage with Congress, how you engage with your representatives as a whole. And so combining those two things allows us to more broadly create an environment that understands how technology should move through our legislative systems and just systems in general.
Camille, what do you see as the role of government in addressing this challenge, especially in that most of critical infrastructure is owned and operated by the private sector?
The large predominance of critical infrastructure being owned by the private sector does make it quite difficult for government to intervene in the ways that they would probably like. But they do have a support network that is set up with sector-specific agencies that have industry-relevant expertise, and the Department of Homeland Security providing cybersecurity support. I think continuing to invest in that, and as CISA gets up to speed operationally and is able to better support and provide the resources that critical infrastructure needs, as well as creating baselines and standards across more of our critical infrastructure sectors, we'll see those investments pay more dividends. So as the government continues to throw resources at it and help create those baselines, that'll be helpful.
You just spoke of creating baselines and standards. What do you see as the optimal strategy in terms of implementing standards and baselines? Perhaps discussing the balance between voluntary strategies and something that might be more mandatory.
It'll definitely need a balance of the two.
There is a discussion among parties in both the public and private sectors on requiring mandatory cyber incident reporting, at least among critical infrastructure players. What do you think of such a strategy?
So there's been a lot of talk about this cyber NTSB that collects information after a cyber incident and then is able to analyze that, pull out lessons learned, and push relevant indicators and information both to the federal government, but also to the private sector. And CISA is doing some work around that, convening folks after solar winds. I think that is an important move. Now, the balance of what parts of that are mandatory and how they make sure that they're getting the relevant information and how they make sure that the information that's disseminated to private sector is valuable and rich such that they want to participate in that process is where the challenge lies.
You referenced earlier business prioritization of cybersecurity efforts. Can you unpack that a bit?
Definitely. There are a number of organizations who still don't have a information security apparatus within their organization. Your IT team is not necessarily equipped to do security work. And then there are some organizations that don't have that at all, from small companies all the way up. And so that investment is really important. Prioritizing that, like you prioritize your marketing budget or your product development budget, is really important. And integrating security into how you develop products and services is an important piece of that as well. So as that investment becomes a part of everyone's priority across the organization, we will see payoffs. But until then, we are seeing disjointed security protocols and controls, organizations that don't have ransomware plans, organizations that don't quite understand everything that's in their infrastructure. So they're subject to vulnerabilities from third-party vendors, et cetera.
Clearly, prioritization by the business would be based upon the business value of cybersecurity. Can you discuss that?
So I think this is akin to the conversation about individuals. We need to be having the right conversations with different audiences. And so companies need to understand that this will affect their bottom line. So we're seeing that in some of these major breaches, the loss of operations, the brand loss, the delay in being able to provide their services, the loss of data. Those are all things that directly impact the bottom line. So if we continue to have conversations where we not only explain the impact to the nation or the international environment, but we talk about how cyber incidents will affect operations, continuity of operations, their ability to provide services to their clients both now and in the future, I think we'll be able to engage them in how they can build this into their business model and their planning going forward. And making sure to translate that not only for large organizations, but for small organizations. I think small companies and medium-sized companies often feel like they will not be the target of a cyber incident, but that's not true. We saw that with the recent Kaseya breach, Kaseya incident, that the vendor that was targeted impacted a number of small and medium companies. And so even if you feel like you as an individual organization may not be targeted, someone in your supply chain may be, and that will have a direct impact on your business.
We've spoken so far about both internal business value-driven motivations for advancing cybersecurity, as well as government requirements. Do you see any value in market-based incentives?
Definitely. I think market incentives will come naturally, particularly from your consumer base as they fear loss of operations, loss of data, and how that will impact them as individuals or as businesses if you're in a B2B context. But some of those broader market drivers and some of the industry driven initiatives to push each other and hold each other accountable and to just leverage the strength of collaboration within your space are really important to making progress.
What about international collaboration on cyber norms among nation states?
I mean, we have a long way to go before we land at cyber norms as a whole, but I think there is a lot of opportunity for allies to come together to drive participation in prosecuting cyber criminals, in creating bilateral, multilateral agreements that drive cyber behaviors that we think are appropriate, and don't impede on the operations and sovereignty of nations. There are a lot of opportunities for collaboration, and we're seeing it. We're seeing countries come together to create agreements, to support each other in building up their cyber capabilities, and to talk about what things are off limits, like attacking critical infrastructure. So those conversations need to continue. Both at the UN level, but also in smaller forums that allow for collaboration on a one-to-one or handful of country basis.
Camille, any closing thoughts?
We have to distill down the complexity of the space and really make connections to the lived experiences of the individual. As I mentioned, some of these cyber incidents that we're seeing now, or even incidents of the past, like the Target incident, really connect to people's everyday lives and are an opportunity for us to explain behaviors and the consequences of engaging or not engaging in those behaviors in ways that will really resonate with people. They're also an opportunity to overcome the friction that may be incident in adopting some of the behaviors, and we should leverage those. We are talking mostly about how, as a nation, we catalyze action, and as organizations, we can catalyze action, but we're forgetting to pull in the individual and speak to them about their role in protecting themselves and broader institutions and organizations, and ultimately the nation.